Hello and good evening to you. Welcome to One on One. I am Bright Nanakwesi Amini from my studios here at Reach in Accra. And we are talking about everything politics, promises being made by John Dramani Mahama, the flag bearer of the NDC and also Ghana's former president, and why he wants to be brought back as president. My guest tonight is Shamima Muslim. She is a communication team member of the NDC and also a gender activist, an inclusion activist, she tells me, and former host of Good Morning Ghana here on Metro TV. I'm excited to have you here in the studio. So, we'll go for very quick time. When we come back, our conversation over there begins. Stay with us and don't go nowhere. Once again, I'm Bright Nanakwesi Amini. Thank you for joining us. Welcome back. We are here on One on One. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest tonight is Shamima Muslim. Thank you so much for joining me. It's an honor. You have no idea how happy I am to have you here.
I've been watching you from afar.
Thank you. My small face.
With your small face. But cute face. So yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Great honor. I'm quite excited about where you are now.
Yeah.
I think before we came on, I was telling you, we have a lot of women in politics, but how many of them have become this vibrant and vocal? I mean, when I saw you on that stage, you know, speaking, it was refreshing.
Thank you.
It was really refreshing.
Ting you.
But before we even talk about all these that are listed,
yes,
where are you getting the energy from?
Energy.
Yes.
To be on the platform.
Yes.
Well. You know, as an activist, you always have boundless energy because the work of activism can drain you out. So you always have a reserve of energy and passion for the things that you believe. All activists that I've known are strongly passionate about the causes that they advocate on, strongly, even when they are tired, even when they are exhausted, even when they are frustrated with the lack of, progress and transformation, we still have quite a bit of reserve to draw upon. So, yes, and media is also activism. You're talking on the mic every day, aren't you?
Yes,
You're trying to communicate to the people on a daily basis. So I think that the combination of those experiences just is what I'm drawing upon in these new roles that I find myself, yes.
Right. And if I'm thinking of you watching me right now and it's new to her face. I mean, she's been on Metro TV for God knows how long. I mean, most of Good Morning Ghana and all that. Yeah. And I know it's not the first time she's coming back to Metro TV, but her first time on One on One. So
yes.
I'm allowed to say welcome back home.
Thank you, actually.
Yes, I'm allowed to say
Metro
that.
will always be home. Metro will always be home. Beautiful.
I'm allowed to say
yes,
that.
Yes.
Let's now talk. One of the most inspiring statements that we have John Dramani Mahama talk about a lot of the times is women empowerment, which you've seen so far. The running mate for John Dramani Mahama is a woman. I mean, you being on a platform, getting this duty now as a woman, young woman as you are, how has it been for you so far? And what made you buy into his ideas?
It's absolutely phenomenal. The commitment His Excellency John Dramani Mahama has shown to the advancement and the centering of women, youth, and as you would hear on 24th when we launched the manifesto, variously marginalized persons with disability, he really wants to foster a new society of inclusion and diversity, a new society that is, reminded about our values as a nation, that we are one people, and together, if we work together, we would actually transform this nation. He wants to bring back a renewed spirit of what it means to be a Ghanaian, to be, a fellow citizen, to be a comrade, a friend, a family member. These values are are being lost on a daily basis, and we are becoming a very self-centric society where quite a number of people seem to be interested in only what they get from the collective and not what, you know, we are able to produce together and share together. This is the spirit with which John Mahama comes into the 2024 elections with, and it is a spirit and an ideology that I totally buy, because all my life this is what I've been fighting for: greater inclusion, greater, you know, representation of, you know, all classes and manners of our citizens in governance, in decision making, increased visibility for the issues, you know, the marginalized issues, the marginalized voices, the images that are underrepresented in our social life. So these are the reasons why I'm totally committed to his campaign and to his philosophy of this, you know, Ghana that can be if we build together and work together. Absolutely.
You are a gender activist, first of all, and
an inclusion activist.
An inclusion activist. And Nana Hukwajiman.
Yes.
A running mate
yes.
for John Dramani Mahama.
Yes.
As a woman and as an inclusion activist.
Yes.
What does it mean to you personally?
What it means to me is that dreams are legitimate and dreams are achievable, and with hard work, with consistency, the sky is the launch pad for every young girl in any part of the country, that they see that you can actually, you know, go to school, work hard, learn hard, achieve great things in different spheres of life. You have no idea the life it's giving, this singular decision, the dreams it's giving to so many girls across board. And even before Nana Jane, were other females. You know, I think that it is His Excellency John Dramani Mahama that has, in the Fourth Republic, shown serious commitment to uplifting the youth and also uplifting women. And because your question centers on women, look, he's had the longest female aide ever in the Fourth Republic, Joyce Bauer.
Right.
And she has become his spokesperson, the first ever female spokesperson of a presidential candidate. He's been consistent with her. He has a deputy campaign spokesperson, Beatrice Annan, female. For the first time in our history, we have a National Communications Bureau with a lot of women communicators across all local languages, on all platforms. For the first time in the history of our Fourth Republic, compare it in comparative terms to every single political party that has run elections. The NDC today is more representative of female voices, of youth voices. And as we saw on Monday at the launch of the Youth Manifesto, young people have their pride of place in the NDC. Because really, who were the founders of the NDC? These were young, brilliant, intelligent, you know, men and women that formed the PNDC, NDC. You know, sometimes people who have sat in classes with these people and seen their brilliance come and join a particular party, and all of a sudden they want to say that, oh, NDC is a party of, is a non-intellectual party. When you sat and you sit in classrooms with them and they wallop you academically, because they know them, we are all in the same classrooms. You are not more intelligent than them, but you assume a certain political position, and all of a sudden you want to try and create a certain narrative that the NDC is a non-intellectual party. You know, who is it not human beings who make up a political party? And these same individuals you see, they are in classrooms with you, and they are passing you in examinations. So I'm saying that we are showing a face of the NDC that has always been, but we are claiming the space and we are projecting what has always been within the NDC. And today, women can boldly, confidently step out and participate. Once you have something to offer, there is space for you. If you're a youth and you have something to offer, there is space for you. So I'm encouraging all young people. This is the best time to be a member of the NDC. This is the best time to join the NDC campaign, because this next administration is all about youth, is all about women, is all about social issues, the important issues of health, education, shelter, food, basic necessities of life. These are the prioritizations of the next NDC administration under the leadership of John and Jane.
Right, let's pick off one of the research works, reports released by the Ghana Statistical Service, since we started talking about the youth, women and all that. So this particular research focuses on education, employment or training, and it's coming from the Ghana Statistical Service, GSS. It says the annual household income and expenditure survey indicates that in the third quarter of last year, 1.9 million youth in Ghana, aged between 15 and 35, had not been educated or trained or employed. Females constituted, and I think this is what you'd be interested in.
Yes.
Females constituted predominantly 1.2 million of this number.
It's a major problem.
Which is really scary.
Yep.
I mean, upon hearing this, what comes into your mind?
So, what comes into my mind is that there's disaster ahead of us if we don't take decisive decisions and actions, intentional decisions and decisive decisions to halt the downward trend with regards to youth participation. Because participation means that they are skilled and then there are opportunities. You can't speak participation if your young people are not in training. They are not in training means they are not learning any handiworks. They are not learning to use their hand to create things, produce things that can be sold, and they are not learning knowledge or skills that would give them services that they can offer for a fee. They are not in employment because we don't have employment avenues for them. And some are not even employable, again, because they don't have the right education and the right skills. So the fact of the matter is that there's a global context to the youth problem. The global context to the youth problem is that the African continent is going to have the youngest youth population by 2050, with over 40% of its population going to be young people. As we speak now, between 15 to 30, we have 70% of the populations in our continent as young people. And Africa would house the youngest continent. Now, two things would present itself. Either this youthful continent, which potentially can give us the human resource or human capital for long periods of time, because that's the youth bracket. It means that if they had the right trainings and the right skills, they'll be able to work productively over a very long space of time. I mean, if you start working at 20, you have 40 years, you know, to, what do you call it, retirement. Okay. So there's a demographic dividend we stand to gain, but there's also a demographic threat if we are not putting these same group of people to work. So if you're faced with an unemployment situation of 16 or so percent, that's the Ghana situation, poor educational outcomes, fertility rates, young girls between the ages of 13 to 15 are having sex and, what do you call it, giving birth to children at an earlier rate. That is a recipe for disaster. So when His Excellency sees this situation and says that, no, we need to create a 24-hour economy, we need to streamline all the various youth intervention policies we have implemented over the years that are just knee-jerk reactions, stopgap measures, to ensure that we create a situation where existing institutions with the capacity to absorb human capital and streamline them and give them longevity of employment. Today, we created a razzmatazz around the NAPCO project. We arranged young people in their several hundreds and thousands at Independence Square, registered them. Where are they today? The program is collapsed. They owe these young people. We have experimented with so many stopgap youth enterprise project, youth entrepreneurship, and NEIP. Pardon?
There's the new one with the KIA.
With the KIA. All these are stopgap measures. They will not, because if you put them onto a program for 2 years and you release them back into an economy that does not have the capacity to absorb, what have you done? You have created more frustration, more mental health. And that's what a lot of the young people are going through. You said they should go to school. They finish going to school. They come out, and there's nothing, no job for them to do. It means that we cannot solve this problem at the same level of thinking that has created this problem. It means we need to put this nation to work. We need to energize the productive base of our country, where all sectors are seeing expansion and the creation of new opportunities to absorb these young people. And for those that are not trained and not in employment, what do we have to do? We have to put them in training.
Exactly.
You see, so it's not rocket science. What is the problem we have? We have these number of young people. Some have skills. They are not employed. What do? Expand employment avenues. Create a 24-hour system that can allow for one job to be done by 3 people and in 3 shifts. So that's our 1-3-3, Formula 1-3-3. Very easy to understand.
I'll just about to come to that.
Yes. And the fact that all these monies that we have used to create these phantom jobs, if we reverted those monies to create the incentives packages for existing, private corporations that have scaled down their production because of high costs of production, that have laid off workers because of high costs of production and then low sales. If we are able to streamline all these existing youth policies, and the administrative cost of running these things alone is colossal, and revert this money to creating a pool for the incentives for existing companies. We have a lot of entrepreneurs in Ghana. We have a lot of businesses in Ghana. There are businesses who are working in free zones, areas. There are private organizations, manufacturing companies. When COVID happened, a lot of local companies were able to retrofit their machinery to produce nose masks, to produce hand sanitizers. You saw it. Right. To produce the overalls and protective wear. It is possible and it is doable for us to create these new streams of opportunities with our existing infrastructure. That is one measure to deal with it. Now, how about those that do not have skills? They've dropped out of the school system. Do we leave them? Their numbers are also many. No, it means we have to put them into some form of apprenticeship so they can learn to do things with their hands. And there are all kinds of small to medium scale enterprises that are localized, depending on the resources you have in your locality. In our parts of the world, smoke weaving has become a thing. You know that. Right. Shea butter has become a thing. But these women don't get the long end of the stick. They go do hard labor, pick, these shea, come and do manual processing of the shea nuts into butter, and then the off-takers come and take it from them at pittance, go add value, and then they get the money. So we are saying that in our localities, there are real opportunities for growth and expansion and opportunities to create local jobs with our local resources. Right.
I want us to speak more on the 24-hour economy statement. Yes. I mean, when it was announced, it created a lot of discussions. There's been the issue of where some school of thought say that the NDC communication members struggle to explain what the 24-hour economy will is about. You just mentioned the system is what? 1-3-3?
Formula 1-3-3.
What really does it mean?
That's what I'm saying. Same job. Think of this one. There are different categorizations of employment. There are formal employment avenues with existing formalized institutions, private corporations and companies, private ventures and companies, enterprises and companies, states corporations, and then parastatal corporations, the ports and harbors, Ghana Revenue Services. All those formalized public sector systems are all existing avenues of employment. Not so. Yes. The public service employs people. DVLA employs people. The pharmaceutical company private exists as a huge, market. So we are saying that in those formalized systems, the manufacturing industries in Tema and our industrial areas, the harbors, these are all places that admit and employ numbers. So the simple proposal is, of all these existing companies, corporations, public, private, that are able to produce their service round the clock because there's need for those services. So it's when people, it's propaganda, they say, what if you go and buy wachi at it's quite, so please forget those things. We're talking about formalized institutions that have the capacity and the capability to produce service that is in demand.
Around the clock.
Around the clock. So in those areas, you see, you have to state the vision. And then you now have to do the work of ensuring that which companies are able to quickly take off. And take off. The MPP that makes this criticism, even with their free senior high school, it was progressively implemented. So when you have a vision to do a long-term intervention, please know that the operationalization stage will happen, and we'll start with the low-hanging fruit. The existing corporations that are able to absorb, that are able to run, full cycle, would come upstream almost immediately. The private organizations that want to increase productivity, they come upstream, giving the incentives that will be given to them. The tax incentives, the tax break, the low cost of power, prorated power for them, electricity. So this is as simple as one job can now take 3 people in 3 shifts.
Right.
That is the ideal situation we envisage.
Okay.
And that process will not be workable for every industry or it will be only workable for those industries that are able to produce goods and services that are required around the clock. Now, how do individuals plug into
I'll come back to you.
Yes.
We are going to speak about how individuals can plug into this. And in a country where each and every day we see workers going on strike, demanding for salaries and all that.
Yes.
I mean, it's happening. As we speak, some of the institutions in Ghana are on strike, are waiting to be paid their salaries and stipends and agreed monies and all that. How will government or the NDC ensure that, if elected, ensure that, listen, the money due people who are on this shift are paid accordingly and in due time? Stay with us. After this break, we continue. Welcome back. We're still here on One. And I'm Bryce and Activism, and I'm still here with Shamima Muslim. Excited to have you here in the studio. I have no idea. And we are speaking everything elections, including promises made by the NDC administration when elected into power. What would they do for Ghanaians? And she's been explaining especially the 24-hour economy, which has caused a lot of conversations. She's actually broken it down for me. I mean, made it really simple for her to understand. I was telling her, that's one of the sweetest explanations I've received so far, But before we went for the break, you were telling me about how people can actually jump on it.
Yes.
And I also want to find out, in an economy like ours, where strikes is almost like deliberate, because government struggles to pay money's owed workers, how will the NDC administration, if elected, ensure that people are not always on strike and complaining of money that are due them on time, paid on time?
So, I mean, the problems with our public service have always been issues that require a more comprehensive approach to dealing with. One of the major, I remember I was in the media when the single spine salary structure was introduced at the time. Dr. Parkwesi Ndum was part of the lead, architects of the program. So beyond just increasing salaries, there was another leg of the program that was to see to increasing productivity. And beyond increasing productivity, there was also another leg that was supposed to ensure that there were the provision of adequate resources and infrastructure for people to produce. Because if you go to work and you don't have the tools to work, then that also affects, productivity. So there's a lot of reforms that our public sector requires to increase productivity and justify, the incomes that they earn in that regard. It has to do with streamlining all the various programs and streamlining government revenue collection methods. Because once the taxes are collected into a pool, prioritization needs to happen.
Right.
And people who actually have worked and earned their income ought to be paid their income. I think in principle, we are in agreement with that. The issues with labor and its challenges are issues that require negotiations. So it will all has to come back to the negotiation table. And that's why I'm saying that because His Excellency has had a first experience of all of these things.
Right.
He knows. And he's met labor. He's been candid with labor about, their expectations, because they know the problems that have happened under this, the wastages that we have seen under this current administration. And one of his first promise is to plug these leakages. We need to plug the leakages that has happened under the under the MPP administration within the public service, and so many 2 billion cedis is allocated annually to the office of the president alone. Because we are in a dire situation, we are actually in an emergency situation. Ghana is in the ICU, criminal, critical unit. So we cannot do business as usual. What will require for all of us from day one is to treat Ghana as you would treat a patient in the intensive care unit. Because this is where we are literally struggling for our lives. It means it can't be business as usual. It means we have to cut down on so many costs and expenses that are not justifiable, so that we can pool those resources and put into the areas that require immediate and a serious intervention. This government owes everybody. 6 billion cedis is owed school feeding suppliers. Contractors, billions of dollars are owed. So, when you are trying to create mass jobs, you don't touch contractors. Because the construction industry is one of the most important industries that redistributes resources. Because you think that you're dealing with maybe an NDC contractor or an MPP or PNC contractor, so I'm not paying him. You forget that this contractor has gone to buy cement from a supplier, has gone to buy iron rods from one account businessman, has gone to buy shovels. It's a circular economy. So when you hold on to the payment of a contractor, it affects every sector of our economy. These are the practical considerations, and yet contractors have not been paid. We are running a debt exchange program that, for the first time, has seen pensioners lose their life savings. Very, very insensitive. These things must not be allowed in any society that has conscience. We must not create a society where a former Chief Justice would come out and protest with pensioners and condemn this abominable act. Why did we allow this to happen? That's a worry. So yes, it is the case that we must ensure we plug the leakages and ensure that we reduce unnecessary government expenditures in unnecessary areas. So everybody has to tighten their belt.
Right.
So you can't ask, and that was one of the criticisms against this government. You ask everybody to tighten their belt, and you were going around in private jets as if we sat on abundant resources. The dissonance was just too much. And I don't expect His Excellency John Mahama into the next administration to be seen engaging in excessive, profligate expenditures, because there's so much to pay, so many people to pay. And today they are touting inflation having come. You are not paying people, you are not paying your debts. You're not paying your international debts, you're not paying your debts locally. And yet, see, prices are still in the 20s and 19s and percent, and you think that it's something to be, you know, proud about. So there are real burdens that this nation would have to deal with. We won't run away from that. We want to invite everybody to accept and see exactly, and that's why we need to vote the MPP out, because we truly need to understand what has happened to this nation. And we cannot trust that they will tell us the full story. The real full story of where we are with our economy, with our finances, would happen after the MPP loses power and leaves office. Then we will show Ghanaians the real state of affairs. Together we would come with you and work with integrity and honesty and transparency on how we propose to move ourselves from the deep hole and begin the process of rebuilding and resetting. And we have to do it together.
Right.
Because there's not going to be any magic out of everywhere. We have to go through the difficult process that the MPP government has brought us. And we will do it with integrity, with transparency, in collaboration. That's why we keep saying we're going to build Ghana together. We have to build together.
That brings me
and
to...
recover together,
right,
yes.
That brings me to this question of John Dramani Mahama saying that when elected, he wouldn't work with more than 60 ministers and deputies. How will that work?
Why won't it work? All the ministries, department, agencies, we have civil servants in all of these ministries. We have technocrats, chief directors. If everybody must earn their keep. This is the cry. I said it's a new energized system. You must earn your keep. If you are there and you are not delivering, you will be let go. But all these numbers that have packed our public service, and the public debt is where it is, you know, we can't make excuses. So what is the role of a minister? To ensure that you provide the vision and direction.
Right.
So this is his commitment to Ghanaians, because we must reduce the burden on the taxpayers substantially. And everybody who wants to even work in His Excellency JM's government must realize that, that this is never going to be business as usual. It won't, it can't be. Because where is the money going to come from to spread in largesse? There's not going to be any largesse. Everybody working must be committed to the sacrifice that needs to be made to reset. We are promising Ghanaians a reset. Reset comes with sacrifices. If it's letting go your ex gratia, if it's letting go your free electricity, free water, you are being paid, so you must pay. As a minister, you must pay. You
just mentioned the issue of ex gratia that he says he will abolish. Where do you stand on that?
I totally agree. If you are,
there's been calls for him to return
if you are
whatever he enjoyed.
That is, you know, these are banal arguments. Let's forget about these things. We're talking about growing a country and building a nation. And when something begins not to work for our interest, if you are a returning MP,
right,
unless you are not a returning, and everybody is entitled to their end of service benefit. But if you are a returning MP, why ex gratia? And then why again and why again? All these matters are issues that must be resolved in conclave, in discussion with all the stakeholders, so we find what works. If you're a nation in distress, you cannot, in the same breath, behave like a nation in what do you call it? In abundance. We are a nation in distress. It means everybody must feel the pinch, especially those who lead. They must feel the pinch the most. And this is my honest opinion, because we can't ask Ghanaians to go through the pains and hardship when we disconnect ourselves from the same pain and hardship. So if we know how it is to pay light bill, to pay water bill, to pay rent, we will be in a hurry to find creative solutions to increase the production base of our economy.
Right. Now, the Youth Manifesto, I mean, has also been launched.
Yes.
I mean, causing a lot of conversation. The fact that
disrupting.
You call that disrupting?
Oh, we have affirmatively disrupted the space.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay, so the
MPP is struggling to catch up.
I want us to talk more about what exactly you mean when you say that there's going to be free first-year academic. So let's say one don't have to pay school fees. Is it just for the entry? What does it mean?
We said,
educate me on it.
Okay, so everybody knows that a lot of students graduating from senior high schools apply to go to universities.
Right.
That's the base of it. And every year, UTAG will share the statistics soon. Every year, there are a lot of students who don't come into school because they can't pay. When you receive your offer letter, you are told to pay your academic user fee before you can even...
With the deadline?
Yes, with a deadline.
Yeah, with the deadline.
Before your offer would be legitimate, before you can even come to school, you have to pay within that deadline. So many people, I'm sure you've seen, so many people during these times we are appealing for people to raise money to give brilliant students who cannot, pay this fee to get entrance into the university. So there's a problem there. So if there's a problem, how do we resolve it? Beyond that, parents, you see them come into the university because one, they are dealing with the issue of their child, especially those coming from the northern parts. They come with them. Number one, to look for accommodation. The stress of already finding accommodation because the traditional halls in our universities no longer are able to take the numbers. So they're going out to look for accommodation. They are preparing their children to come in. They have to deal with an AFUF that is a condition prerequisite even to come. So to ease the burden, we're saying that free academic user fee for tertiary students for level 100 because there's an intervention called the Student Loan Trust Fund Plus.
Right.
Once you come in, that burden of coming in is removed from you. Concentrate on how you find your residential, where you are going to live, and get your hang of things. And by which time your student loan, what was a problem even with the traditional student loan scheme was that you have to come in to apply for it. I was a local NUCS president in Legon and external affairs, and I was in charge of the student loan scheme. People will come in first before they start applying for the student loan scheme. And this was even years ago.
After they've paid the first year?
You have to come into before. You cannot get your loan before you come to school.
Yeah.
So when you come to school, that's when you start. So my room was always filled with student applications for loans. So sometimes your loan will come in at the end of the semester. Some even got theirs. Those who didn't get guarantors early will get their loan at the end of their first year. And some students depended solely on the loan. I come from, Upper West region. I know the numbers of my brothers and sisters who were burdened because they were totally dependent on student loan. So these are the sensitivity to the plight of the Ghanaian student that we encourage all of us to rise to the occasion. So it's a stopgap measure for year ones. After that, you have these Student Loan Trust Fund Plus to be able to continue with your education. It's a stopgap measure for all year ones.
But how different is this from free SHS? What is the difference? I mean, this is first year, but then there's still some free in there.
Yes. So and it's so like you're saying, it's first year. We're not saying free education, and we're not saying free academic facility and free residential facility, and we are not promising.
So the burden is less.
It's less, but it is doable because we have done some of the calculations so far in terms of the numbers that are coming in and the areas in which we will make savings, because it's a commitment and it's a prioritization. Remember, we don't want thousands of students graduating from senior high schools left out of tertiary education. That is also going to become a problem. You see, and you must see the interlinkages with our vision. We are saying that we're going to put the youth into training. We're going to put them in education. So we need to put them in, those who qualify to go into education, we have to put them into education so that we can deal with the numbers that have not qualified to go into education. We can now deal with the training for those numbers. Those are how, that is how the policies are interlinked. So wherever we see a gap where the youth is concerned, remember next year JM's administration is centering young people. So wherever we're going to meet the youth at their point of need, we are committed to easing the burden. So that's why we're saying nobody has talked about scrapping the senior high school.
Right.
But all educational stakeholders agree that it needs to be enhanced and it needs to be taken, we need to take a second look at it to remove the inefficiencies and strengthen it. So these are practical, pragmatic interventions that we're going to take in concert with all education stakeholders. As we are talking, we are engaging UTAG about the practicalities. You know, a leader must have a vision, must communicate that vision, and must mobilize support for the implementation of that vision. And this is what we are providing to our students when they come for their tertiary education year 1.
We are running out of time, but then I wouldn't have...
So soon.
I wouldn't have you here without speaking about the affirmative action. I wouldn't do that mistake.
Yes.
How happy are you?
I'm very, even though I'm happy that at least we have crossed that major hurdle, I am practical enough to know that the real work actually begins.
Right.
Now, I think that the president is yet to assent his signature to it. So the real work really begins after because, you know, these are systemic challenges and barriers. They will not be resolved with a stroke of a pen. It will only be addressed if the institutions are forward-looking and embracing of, you know, what is expected of them to do, and the affirmative action committees actually take this as a call, a divine call to bridge, you know, the equity gap in our society, so that the society will be the better off for it. Because, hey, women are already contributing massively to the advancement of our economy. We are in the majority. We are majority in the informal sector. Women are actually the backbone of the informal sector. Ghana Statistical Service say there are more female-headed households in Ghana. Women make up the bulk of those who work in the small to medium-scale enterprises. And Ghanaian women actually top. MasterCard Foundation have their regular reports on women entrepreneurs globally. Ghanaian women are always in the top 3 globally. There were years in which we were first in terms of the number of women-owned SMEs.
Women in Ghana are rich.
So, but that's the small league. We are playing the small league. So imagine we are doing well in the small league. If we elevate to the Premier Leagues, imagine the abundance that will be there for all of us. So yes, I am very happy about the affirmative action bill, but I'm also going to use this opportunity to congratulate His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, because he already started implementing affirmative action, you know, within his own community, even before we passed the affirmative action bill. And we know that he's going to continue in that regard when he comes to government, ensure that we implement the affirmative action bill and elevate the space and the role of women. Other marginalized groups, it's not only a women's bill, and other marginalized groups would have their pride of place in the Ghanaian society.
And quickly, let's speak about the, how do I say this? Let's speak about the standards of Nana Opoku-Agyeman as a woman, as a running mate for the NDC. I like how you're responding to it. Let's speak about that. I mean, what chance or what opportunity does she add to that of John Dramani Mahama?
It's a brilliant stroke. It's a brilliant stroke. I mean, this is an accomplished woman. Nobody in their right sense would ever try to denigrate the achievements of Professor Nana.
But you've seen that happen.
You know, but you know, so that's what politics does. People who can't hold a torchlight at all to you feel the need to sit on social media and try to be disrespectful. An accomplished academic, a professor's professor. You know how it is to lead in a university? She rose through different ranks, led departments, colleges to go and lead, you know, the University of Cape Coast. First female public, or a female chancellor of a public university. And in her public life, nobody can throw any controversy around her. Integrity has been her watchword throughout. She is a welcome addition to the ticket. And we have absolutely no doubt that just as she's made history in the past, she will make history again as the first female vice president of the Republic. And all of us must be proud to have a Nana Jane in our home. Everybody must be proud to have a grandmother like Nana Jane in their home. A very active grandmother like this, touring the length and breadth of this country. Active like this, intelligent, with such integrity and such accomplishment. Ghana will be lucky to have her as a vice president, truly.
And how is the campaign for the NDC fit so far?
Oh, it's brilliant. I mean, we're leading. Nana Jane is in Greater Accra. She's touring all the markets, connecting with market women, Malata, Makola, visiting local markets, you know, so we would have a real feel of what the everyday life and problems of these women. So our campaign is in full swing. We will bring the message of hope, of change, of reset, of rescue to the people of Ghana. And we know that we don't have to say much because the reality of the lives, of the pain, of the hardship, the corruption, the nepotism, the family and friends government that is, you know, the Nana Bawumia government is currently running, everybody is witness to it. People are shocked. People who felt that Nana Bawumia's government were going to deliver the promised land, they are shocked that we have been taken back to the hardships of the Pharaoh times. And some of them have lost their voice completely out of shame, some to out of hypocrisy, some to out of fear. You know, they no longer talk. But I just want to encourage our society to, especially the moral voices, to rise up and speak, like the former Chief Justice has spoken up. Because the feel of accountability we saw in the era of John Dramani Mahama seems to be absent in this era, even when things are worse than we have ever witnessed in this country. So sometimes I wonder why. Why are we not having the same sense, the same energy of accountability from the quarters that were very, very vociferous in the era of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama? Perhaps because JM has always been tolerant of dissenting views, as Manasseh has also reminded us. Perhaps they know that freedom of the speech under this era may not be guaranteed. Perhaps, who knows, maybe their mouths are full. But wherever you are, when wrong, it's wrong. And we must speak up because this is the only country we have. Consistency in holding leaders account is the only thing that will save us. So if you were speaking up against some wrongs yesteryears and those wrongs have quadrupled this year, I think as a matter of conscience, as a matter of duty to even your own self and to whatever religion you ascribe to, we must speak up. We must speak up and condemn wrong because there are too many things happening that are condemnable that we shouldn't be quiet about. And so MPP deserves not a renewed mandate. On what basis? Are they asking for a third term?
Right. Before you go, in one sentence, Shamima, please, just one sentence. In one sentence, how would you describe the Bawumia Napo team? Just one sentence.
Failed on arrival.
All right, thank you. And so I've been here with, I'm glad you made it short.
Thank you.
I've been here with Shamima Muslim. She's a member of the NDC communications team. She's very vocal on almost all the campaign trails of the NDC leader, John Dramani Mahama, who is seeking to be elected or re-elected as president of the Republic of Ghana. And thank you so much for coming. So a former host of Good Morning Ghana here.
Good Morning Ghana, yeah.
TV. I don't know, I smile a lot when I say that. Yes, it feels good to say that. And thank you so much as well for you also for watching wherever you watch us from, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. I am Bright Nana Kwesi. Have a good night.